we are trying something new today. Let me know if you're on YouTube. I know I'm live there. I'm actually also live on Instagram. So we're gonna try this. It does look like I've got a little bit of a delay on YouTube, but not on Instagram. So I'm really interested to know wherever you're watching. Let me know if you can hear me okay, if you can see me okay. Because if not, then I may have to only be live on one or the other. I'm not really sure how this is going to work and how it's going to do. And if I'm not looking directly at you, I'm looking at the other phone. So interested to see how it goes. I feel like I have not done as good a job letting people know where I'm live and when I'm live. And, you know it can get confusing. So I was like, if I can just go live in both places, then there we go. That makes it easy for everybody. So we'll see how it goes. I've got my coffee here with me. I've got my water. I have a project that I'm working on that I wanted to share with you guys today. But first things first, my name is Evelyn of Pink Sheep Design, and this is my Tuesday live, which is really just a smorgasbord of random stuff that I decide I'm going to talk about, and that you guys help me pick topics for. So today we're actually talking about summertime craft fairs. So I'm actually really excited about this one, mainly because I did not do well at summer craft shows. That was never my jam. It wasn't something that I was very good at figuring out what to make. So I got to do a whole bunch of research before this one, which actually meant I just stayed up way too late last night, asking questions in Facebook groups. If you're in any of the same Facebook groups as me, you probably saw one of the posts that I did asking about what people's best selling items were for craft shows in the summertime. And I got a lot of really great answers. So what's really interesting is last year I did a roundup of quick summer projects. So it wasn't specifically meant for selling at craft shows, but that's what it ended up being a great option for, because these were really small projects that worked up really fast. And a lot of them were pretty functional items. So I have it pulled up. I'm also at my computer desk so that I can pull up all of these patterns that I'm going to talk to you guys about. And if you're watching on YouTube, in the description, you will find a link to my newest pattern roundup that is focused on amigurumi. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, that there is a big purchasing boom for amigurumi items during the summer. But then you're also going to find a link to my last year's roundup that is the smaller items, not amigurumi focused based items. And if you're on Instagram, you can go to the link in my bio and you can find the list of items there. So I'm interested, if you are watching on Instagram, let me know, because I don't see any comments on there. I don't see that anyone has joined. So I'm really interested to know if it's even working. and if it's not, then I'll probably head off Instagram and head over to YouTube, and you can join me over there on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/pinksheepdesign. Okay, so and if you are on Instagram and you can see this, then you just go to the link in my bio, and I have a link to both of those. So I have a link to this year's amigurumi roundup, pattern roundup, and last year's craft show pattern roundup. So let's see. I have those pulled up. Yeah, I don't think anybody's on the Instagram one. I've never gone live from the iPad before, and that's what I was trying to do today. And it doesn't look like anybody's on here. So bear with me. Yeah, I'm probably going to leave that for now. We're going to end that one. Okay, so I tried. I figured it was worth a try because I haven't tried that before. So I was on the iPad on Instagram, but it never even showed me that anybody had joined. So, but you have to experiment, right? And try new things. So, there may be a better way to do that. I feel like there's people that go live on Instagram and Facebook, but I didn't realize that Safari, so the Mac version of the web browser, it's not supported by a lot of live streaming things. So like I can't go live from Safari on YouTube. I can't go live on Instagram from Safari. And from what I've heard, downloading Google Chrome on a Mac is not something that is the best thing to do for your Mac. So we have not done that, and I just stick with Safari, and it has its limitations. Okay, so we're going to refocus on YouTube. That was a lot. I feel like I was having to look back and forth, but you got to try new things. But I see that Cindra is here with us. Thorn is here. Kim is here. Lita is here. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited about this one. I really am. I do want to show you guys the project that I'm working on really quick first before I dive in. So this is using the Lion brand Lazy Days. You can see. And it's held double stranded. So this is a 4-weight yarn. And I'm using my 14 millimeter hook. And this is going to be another, what's it called? Summer Breeze cardigan. Now, this one hasn't released yet. It is almost ready. It's almost ready. I'm in like the grudgingly moving to the end of the pattern release because I've gotten everything from my testers except one tester still has to send me photos. I have the PDF is ready, but I have to do the print friendly version, which means writing up a whole separate version that's print friendly. And then I have to get all of the stuff, I have to get it listed on Etsy. I have the graphics ready, but I have to have the graphics for announcing it on Instagram. So that's a whole separate thing. But it's those last final tedious pieces before it's ready to release. But super excited about this one. And this stuff is really, really soft. If you guys haven't checked out Lion brand Lazy Days, I highly recommend it. It's just really soft to work with. It's a lot like Bernat Maker Home Deck, but it's a little softer. It is a little smaller. Bernat Maker Home Deck is considered a 5-weight. This is considered a 4-weight. I'm holding it double stranded. This pattern for the Summer Breeze cardigan actually calls for 2 strands of bulky 5-weight, but I'm working it up with the 2 strands of 4-weight to see how it works. And so far it's working beautifully. It's creating a little more of an airier texture so you can see through the holes a little more, but since this is a summery cardigan, it's perfect for that. But it's not so small that it's making it difficult to maintain gauge, because that can be the issue, I think, sometimes when you use the same hook for a pattern that calls for a much bulkier weight yarn. You can sometimes have issues with the gauge and your tension, maintaining your tension, because the holes in the space are just too big. And then it's difficult for me, at least. So working on this, really excited about this. This is back loop single crochet that this whole thing is made up of back loop single crochet. So it's pretty much just 2 big pieces of ribbing that you work together. But I'm really, really excited about it. And then I'm working out of this new tote bag that's going to be another design releasing this summer. It's very reminiscent of the simple bucket backpack that I made last year, because you use I-cord and you run the I-cord through the bag like so, and that way it drawstrings. So you can drawstring it closed, and then you can easily open it up, but it holds it closed when you've got it over your shoulder. And then you can also choose to pull just from one side, and you can wear it as a crossbody bag. So kind of cool. I thought it was an interesting concept. It's something that I wanted to run with and try. That is also in testing, so that'll release soon too. And talking about summer craft shows, this will be a good option if you want to have a few higher priced items. So this will be a fun one. I've seen a lot of people that make my simple bucket backpacks and take those to craft shows because they work up so fast. So that's a fun one. And the backpacks, when you're thinking functional, that's right on the money. So Cinder says they don't play nice together. Yeah, I mean, just technology in general is a little crazy. And I'm so thankful that my husband knows so much more about tech, because I just would have downloaded Google Chrome on my Mac. No problem. But he was like, no, you don't do that. If you're going to spend the money on a Mac, you use what the Mac has and you find software that works with your Mac. So that's what we're working with. Thorn, my deepest sympathy for figuring out technology. It's hard for me too. Kim, I want to check out. Yes, check out this yarn for sure. See if you can get it on sale. But it's got a lot of pretty colors, very earth tone colors. But these were fun. Hello, Winter, welcome. And thank you, Kim. Says it's a great design. And yeah, I think it's a pretty good one. That's been fun. I made one with t-shirt yarn, so that's a nice one. Okay, so I'm ready to jump in. Summer craft shows. So going back to the beginning, I never did well at summer craft shows. I think I did one that was like a true summer craft show, and I brought crop tops. So I brought a couple different styles of crop tops, some like bikini style tops, regular crop tops. I brought them in a couple different sizes. I don't think I made anything larger than like an extra large, but had a whole table full of crop tops. I made cat cozies, like cup holder cozies. And I'm trying to think if I made anything else. That might have been, I'd have to go back and look. I might have had some of those toe sandals, you know, like the little yoga toe sandals that like hooks over your toe and then you wrap it around your leg. Super not functional. Looking back, you know, I don't really know anyone personally who actually wears those. So I think that's something too, is when you're trying to figure out what you're going to make for a market, I would think, would I actually want this? Would I actually use this? Do I actually use this? And do I like it? You know, I think once you start making things that you actually use day to day, it becomes easier to also market those items. So for me, my crop tops that I make, I wear them every single day. So if I'm taking pictures and I can show off the fact that I'm wearing one of those tops, that it's super functional, that I wear it all the time, that is how you expand out from like the craft show world into selling online, because you're using it all the time. If you use your market bags every time you go to the grocery store, then it's easy for you to market them and say these actually work, they're super functional. And if you're at a craft show, that's how you market your bag. If someone comes up and asks questions about the bag, you're like, oh yeah, I use it all the time. This is the perfect size for, you know, for apples and oranges and like getting fruits. They're actually strong enough to hold them. I use them every time I go to the grocery store. So that's a big side of when you're planning out items to bring to a craft show. The first thing I like to think of is functionality and the use of the item. Now, that's not always the case, because we're going to get into that a little bit today, that I have been pretty floored by what is actually selling at craft shows these days, especially spring and summer craft shows, things that I never made for craft shows. But when I am planning out a craft show, I like to first look at functionality. So looking at like the drawstring bags, summer, everybody wants to have some kind of bag to carry things around in, especially for kids. Like if you're making the size that I made, it's a perfect size for a kid to like throw on their back and carry their toys around and carry their goodies from the craft show. So thinking too, marketing, if you have craft shows that you go to where there's a lot of kids there, you can do the same thing that the grocery aisles do and put things for kids at kids' eye level, you know, and see if you can get them to spend their allowance on something from you. But functionality, I think, is a great thing to look at. Obviously things that work up quick. So you want to look at things that you can make fairly quickly. And again, I'm going to go into details about specific things. I'm going to give you like a whole bunch of ideas, and then you can take it and run with it. And also let me know if you guys, if y'all go to summer craft shows, please let me know in the comments if you go to summer craft shows, if you vend, or if you go to purchase things, and what your best-selling pieces are if you go. So if you vend at craft shows, what are the top selling items for you? I think it's always super interesting to find out. And not a lot of people answered my question. I have to tell you, I think I posted this question in 5 different groups. I posted it in my stories on Instagram, and it wasn't crickets. There were some people that answered, but it wasn't very many. So I don't know if people don't want to say what their best sellers are, or if they don't go to summer craft shows, or if they just haven't done well at summer craft shows. I don't know. I'm sure it's like a huge mix of different things. Let's see. Winter says, I have a bit of time before I start packing up all my orders. Yes, yay for orders. That's awesome. Winter says, I have 10 to pack and send. I have to get supplies first because I don't have anything left. Yes, I order all my packaging in bulk for sure. Let's see. Lita says, I'm going to visit some craft fairs for the first time this year to see what's sold locally. I like that idea. That's one of my biggest pieces of advice for people who have not yet sold at craft shows, whether that's I haven't sold at summer craft shows or I haven't sold at craft shows at all, is to attend the shows that you're interested in vending at first and then make a plan for the next year. And then you can plan out which ones you want to try to apply to be a vendor for. And Thorne says, yes, that's a good idea, Lita. It's interesting applying some of this advice to me as someone who wants to sell yarn at events. For X, I'm still planning to look at what my best sellers are. Yes, and looking at what this particular audience is likely to want. Yes, exactly. So what are they buying? You can talk to vendors and find out if the stuff that they have is selling, if they enjoy the show, if they've done it regularly, if it's one they're going to come back to. Really, I loved connecting with other vendors and asking them if they would go to that show again. So yes, very smart. Focus on quality. That's a big one. So even if you're just pumping stuff out, make the items that you choose the best quality you can make them. So when I first started making cat cozies, I was using one strand of worsted weight yarn. They weren't super functional. So like when you put them on a hot coffee cup, you could still feel the heat coming through the cup. So it wasn't doing as good of a job as I wanted it to. And the faces were pretty wonky when I first started making cat cozies. It wasn't perfected yet. And so I was continuing to work on my design, perfect my design. I moved to using 2 strands of worsted weight cotton, so it was better insulated, and it actually kept it from burning your hand when you were using it for coffee. And then I really perfected the little face on the cat cozy, and it looked uniform, and the items looked professional and uniform and well made. And then I was able to market because I'm like, yeah, the cotton, if you put it on a cold beer in the summertime or on a cold coffee cup, it's gonna soak up all the condensation because it's cotton. So like you learn all these things where it's like, yes, you should buy this, and here's why. And that's why using the items that you're gonna make. So if you are planning on making these items, make sure it's something that you actually want to use, and that you'd actually want to, tell people, yes, you should buy this. So I think thinking along those lines is a really good thing when you're trying to plan out what you want to do. Let's see. Sindra says, the ones that I've been to in my area, crochet does not sell for what it's worth, even on the low end. Unfortunately, the only people I have sold to here are coworkers. Totally understand that. And I do think that I felt the same way. And I think some of it is I didn't think outside of what I would have wanted to make. Never thought that cat cozies would sell the way they did, by the way. That is a bundle that is in my Etsy shop. If you guys want to check it out, they're kind of ridiculous. But they sold to cat lovers and non-cat lovers alike. People just liked them. They were different. They were weird. And I made the little beer cozies and the little coffee cozies. And they sold for 15 and 20 bucks a pop. I think towards the end I was selling them for 20 and 25 because I couldn't keep them. So they literally did sell out every time I went. Now, what's interesting too, though, Sindra, talking to you as well, I wonder if I had made like the bees. I mean, because everyone talks about how quickly the bees sell out. I wonder if I had made bees and brought them to that craft show that I did pretty awful at, if they would have sold. I don't know, you know? So it's really interesting, and it does depend on where you are. That was a big answer to the question when I posted it in the Facebook groups was depends on where you live, it depends on the show, it depends on the people, and it really does. But obviously you want to kind of get your feet wet, you can try different things. It's a lot of trial and error, and that's why you do want to look at the less expensive shows to start out to kind of wet your feet and find out what people are looking for. But then it's still kind of hit or miss no matter where you go. It just depends on the show. But you can also look at buying trends, which is something that I did before I wrote the newest blog post that I published last night, looking at a little bit of research as well as talking to other people who are selling things now in craft shows. Because I haven't sold at a summer craft show since 2016. I mean, it's been a long time since I tried, to dip my toe in the water of year-round craft shows, which was definitely not my thing. And it was the same problem, Cindra. So I had crop tops, and I think I priced them at $35 and $45 per crop top, and none of them were selling because people didn't want to spend that on them. But if I had made some like little bees that only took me 25, 30 minutes to make instead of a crop top that took me 2, 3, 4 hours, maybe they would have sold. I don't know, because I didn't try it. So lots of trial and error. Sheila says, I haven't done many summer shows, but when I was at one last fall, the person who basically sold out made plush toys. So that's what we're getting at. Yes. And then that's where we're going to go next. So Winter says you better do that before the end of June, Thorn, because I'm sure people are going to go crazy about them. Talking about the pride themed yarn colorways. Gotcha. That's what I thought you were talking about. Let's see. I would love to see crochet items for Pride and June craft fairs. And that's another thing. So that's one route to take is, and there are a lot of people I know, for instance, Gay Crochet Co. You can check her out on Instagram. She makes some amazing Pride themed items, obviously year round, but I think following some of those accounts to see what is selling. And sadly, it does depend on the show as to whether or not that's going to go over well. The people that are attending the show that you're at. Now, if you go to a Pride themed event and you have Pride themed merchandise, obviously, instead of just making amigurumi bumblebees, you can make rainbow bumblebees. So, so there are a lot of options there, but you definitely have to find the right show to make sure that the people coming to the show are going to want to support you and support your stuff and support Pride, So it's finding the right place to go. Let's see. Use the items you are selling for sure. For me, it's a lot of shawl making this month. My pattern writing is going well. The pattern I'm writing is going well. That's awesome. I think too with summer, it is thinking about those smaller, quicker items, because the larger ones, they may still sell, but I think not a lot of people are in as much of like the gift giving mood. So nobody's planning for Christmas at that point. So some of these larger big ticket items, like I would make these big wraps, and obviously I'm not going to bring pom-pom hats and scarves and all of that to summer craft fairs, but there are like summery shawls and things that you can try. But I would only bring a few of the big ticket items and the larger items, because you don't want to spend all of your time making those and you don't sell as many when you could focus on some of these smaller items that you can always keep on hand. Cinder says your cat cozies are on my list. Thank you, Thorn. The cat cozies are definitely a favorite. And it took me so long to be willing to write that pattern because I didn't want to share my secrets of how I made them so cute. But now I don't sell them anymore. So sharing the love and letting someone else make some money off of them. Cinder says she has that bundle. And yeah, everyone is obsessed with bees. And I feel like that started, 2 years ago? Maybe a year or two ago. Cinder says, I've started to do some amigurumi. We'll post some pictures on Discord. I would love to see. Thorn says bees are great because you can make pride flag bees, sports team bees, sci-fi. Yes, and you can make lots and lots and lots of different bees. And I think the same thing with a lot of the amigurumi animals that people are making right now. Like they'll make the turtles that have a different color shell. So like a sunflower shell or a watermelon shell. So I've seen a lot of that. Winter, there's a Discord. Yes, I have a Discord right now for my testers. Right now, that's the only one. We did start a Discord for the DIY hook challenge, but I don't just have at this time a generic Pink Sheep Discord. I have the Facebook group, but that's pretty much it for outside of the tester group and the DIY hook group. Lita says I made one of those bees for myself. I need to make a colorful bee for myself for sure. Let's see. And yes, Thorn, you're correct about the Discord. Winter Thorn, there are like hundreds of bee patterns on Ribbler. It's like a plague. And there are. So I did my search on Etsy. And it was hard to find, and you kind of want to make sure that you find, I don't know who the original bee pattern maker was. If anyone knows who the first person was that went viral with their bee pattern, let me know, because I have no idea. I found 3 patterns that I included in the most recent blog post about Summer Craft Fair Amigurumi. One is a giant bee pattern by Curious Papaya. One is I've got them pulled up. One is the Classic Bumblebee by Savagely Stitch Shop. And then the third one that I put on this blog roundup is the Baby Bee by Baby Cakes Studios. So those are the 3 bee patterns that I included in the most recent roundup. And you guys can find the link to that roundup in the description of the video. Let's see. The cutest plague. Yes, exactly. Definitely need to know your audience. Yes, exactly. And yes, for more reasons than one. I have a lot of small items already made. My shawls sell well online. That's why I make them. That's fantastic. I feel like a lot of people struggle with online sales. So if you have found a niche and it works and you're making money, that's amazing. Let's see, a cube-shaped bee pattern. That's interesting. Who was the designer? Do you know off the top of your head who the designer was for the cubed-shaped bee? Original bee pattern from Robin, hooked by Robin. I'm going to write that down. That's what becomes difficult, I think. Was it a free pattern? Does she have a blog, or is it a paid pattern? And where would the pattern be? If you guys know, I will add that to my list. Hooked by Robin. Okay, so we talked about when you're planning for craft shows, it needs to be functional, something that you would want to use yourself or that you truly just enjoy making. Focus on the quality of the items. Make sure that you really tweak the design so that the items do look cohesive and look like they all belong together. That means some of the beta items might need to be gifted as you're like working through the process and getting things right, because it takes a while, for you to really hone in on a pattern. You might have to make it a couple of times before you're like, oh, I got this. Now I can make a million of them and they're all going to be the same, except for maybe changing up the colors, but they do look uniform, if that makes sense. They look like they all have the same level of quality. You can go with trendy items. I did want to talk about color aesthetic. So, you don't have to go with like one specific color palette, but I do think it helps when you're trying to draw people in, to either go with like neutral or colorful, or even have your table be half and half, which would be really cool. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen the trend where like they'll dye their hair one color on the side and one color on the other. So I think it would be pretty interesting if someone had their neutral items on one side of their table and their bright and colorful items on the other side of their table. I think that would be really fun, but drawing the eye and trying to like maybe color coordinate and putting certain colors together. I think just different ways to draw people into the table if you're showcasing at the booth. Display is a whole nother thing. I talk about that in, I think, another video. If I don't, I'll have to make another video, because display is important, but it takes time. So I came a long way from the very first table setup that I had at my very first show to where I was when I was at kind of that peak of the number of shows that I was attending. So it's important, but we won't talk about it today. We have so many other things to talk about. So let's see. Robin has a YouTube channel. Spelling of her username. Okay, I'll have to come back and copy that. But you said she's on Ribbler. Okay, cool. So all of her patterns are cubes. That's really funny. Okay. Let me actually, while I'm on here, I'm going to copy and paste that and see if I can find them real quick. On Ribbler. Well, that's not her. If you find them, let me know if you can get a link because I'm not seeing them right now. Okay, so a few items before we jump into the amigurumi side. I wanted to go through a couple of things, actually quite a few things that if you guys just need ideas, these are ideas that you can kind of jump off using. And these are also items, a lot of them are items that people did mention when I asked in Facebook groups what their best sellers have been at craft shows. So that's helpful. It's not just off the top of my head, I think this would be cool. It's that as well. But it's also things that people specifically said, yeah, this is stuff that sells for me. So you've got dream catchers, which I think what's great about dream catchers is you can make small ones and you can make large ones. The other thing I like about dream catchers is that you can hang them if you've got a tent or off the edge of a table. So that's really helpful, I think, because that's going to help you kind of dress up your table in different ways.
You need to cut this short.
Okay. Let's see. I think I may have to cut this one short because I'm not sure what he needs, but it sounded really important. So check out the blog posts. We've got lots of information on the blog posts. And yeah, we'll go from there. I'll see y'all later.